Flor Dalyong Quilla of BS Ed Science. Today, I will be showing you my teaching demonstration, and the subject that I will teach is Science 9. And the topic is chemical bonding. Good morning, class! Okay, before we start our lesson for today, we will have first a prayer to be led to us by Mr. Salazar. Okay, before you take your seats, kindly pick up some pieces of paper under your chairs and please arrange it and sit properly. Okay, I will check your attendance. Say present once I call your name. Very good, class. No one is absent today. As before we start our lesson for today, we will have first a recap with regards to our previous topic. Yes, Ms. Hidalgo? Okay, that's good to know. Any questions about our last topic? Okay. Now, we will proceed to our lesson for today. But first, we will have a short activity. Still remember, class, how to identify if the element is a non-metal or a metal? If not, all you have to do is look at in your periodic table of elements. Shown here right now in front of you is a periodic table of elements, which are grouped as to metals, non-metals, and metalloids. Metals are those in color with red, while non-metals are those in color blue, and metalloids are those in color yellow. Now let us have an example. As you can see, lithium here is in color red. Therefore, lithium is a metal element. Very good. Now, neon here is in color blue. So, neon is an example of a non-metal element. Next, boron. Boron is in color yellow. So, boron is an example of a metalloid. So, if we recall, class, metalloids are a unique group of elements that share properties of both metal and non-metal. Are we clear, class? So, let's begin our activity. Are you ready? Okay, all you need to do is to identify if the given element is a non-metal or a metal. Let's start. Iron. Miss Otagan, please stand. What do you think is iron? A non-metal or a metal? Yes, correct. By looking at in your periodic table, class, iron is a metal element. Very good, Miss Otagan. Next, we have silver. Mr. Baltazar, what do you think is silver? That is correct. Like iron, class, silver is also a metal element. Very good. Last one. Hydrogen. So, Miss Total, what do you think is hydrogen? Okay, that is correct. Hydrogen, class, is an example of a non-metal element. Very good, everyone. Now, let us start our lesson for today. Do you know this man, class? He is the famous chef called Salt Bae. He is famous because of his way of pouring salt. Now, do you know that salt is an example of a compound? So when we say compounds, compounds are the chemical substances made up of two or more elements that are chemically bound together. And one good example of this is sodium chloride or the table salt. Now, do you like bonding with your friends, family, or loved ones? Do you miss bonding with your classmates? Bonding as human class are important in our social and emotional state. Moreover, atoms bond as well, and that is what we call chemical bonding. So, chemical bonding class is our lesson for today. So, chemical bonding is a lasting attraction between atoms, ions, or molecule that enables the formation of chemical compounds. So, there are several types of chemical bonding class. The ionic bonding and the covalent bonding. So, ionic bonding, it is formed through complete transfer of electron from one atom to another atom. It exists between metals and non-metals. So, why do atoms bond? Atoms bond to become stable. When a metal element bonds with non-metal element, that is ionic bonding, wherein ions are formed. Ion is an atom or molecule with positive and negative charge. It is formed after a metal atom transfers its valence electron to non-metal atom. So remember, class, that valence electron is the electron found in the outermost shell of an atom. And also, class, you can determine the number of valence electron by looking at its group number in the periodic table of elements. For example, oxygen. Oxygen is in group 6. That is why its valence electron is 6. Very good. So, class, there are two types of ions, cation and anion. So, cation is when a metal atom loses electron. And anion is when a non-metal atom gains electron. And also, class, you have to remember that cation has a positive charge and anion has a negative charge. Now, how does ionic bonding occur? Just what like I said earlier, class, it happens between a metal and non-metal element. If there is a complete transfer and gaining of electron, ionic bonding happens. One example is sodium chloride or the table salt, wherein sodium is a metal and chlorine is a non-metal. So now, let us move on to the second type of chemical bonding, which is the covalent bonding. So covalent bonding is also called a molecular bond. It is a chemical bond that involves sharing of electron pairs between atoms. It commonly occurs when two nonmetals bond together. So nonmetals have a strong energy attractions or high electronegativity compared to metals. They do not need to give electrons to be stable. Instead, they gain or share electrons to obtain stability. For example, class, fluorine. We all know that fluorine is a non-metal element. So covalent bond complete the octet for both sharing of electrons will obtain a stability. Another example, oxygen. Oxygen is a non-metal element that has 6 valence electrons. It can make 2 hydrogen which has 1 valence electron resulting to H2O or water. So that is the chemical bonding class. So class, let's proceed to the 2 types of covalent bonding. We have polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond. So non-polar covalent bond is when the electrons are shared equally. For example, hydrogen has no electronegativity difference. Polar covalent bond is when electrons are shared unequally. For example, hydrogen and fluorine. Fluorine has more electronegative than hydrogen. Therefore, electronic cloud tilts toward fluorine atoms than hydrogen. So class, let us move on to the properties of ionic and covalent bonding. So let us have the existence. Ionic bonding exists in the solid state only, while covalent exists as solids, liquids, and gases. In terms of conductivity, ionic bonding has low conductivity, while covalent bonding has a very low conductivity. Now, in terms of hardness, ionic bonding class is very hard or brittle, while covalent bonding is not very hard and more flexible. So ionic bonding class has a high melting and boiling points than covalent bonding. When it comes to malleability and ductility class, ionic bonding and covalent bonding are both not malleable and not ductile. So, covalent bonding class has a high volatility than ionic. Now, when it comes to solubility, ionic bonding is soluble in water but insoluble in organic solvent, while covalent bonding is insoluble in water but soluble in organic solvents. So these are the properties of ionic and covalent compounds. So class, that is the end of our lesson for today. Any questions? Clarifications? If you have no question, class, get 1/2 sheet of paper for our quiz. Number your papers 1 to 10. So write T if the statement is true and F if the statement is false. I'll give you 10 minutes to answer. Are you done, class? So, exchange your paper with your seatmates. Okay, class, if you are done checking, pass it to me. Very good, class. Everybody got a perfect score. So, before we end this day, I will give you an assignment to be passed on our next meeting. So, that would be all. Goodbye and thank you, class.